Parents of Reddit, how did your son/daughters so win you over? Read the question wrong. So here's my real answer. I'm a martial arts instructor among other things. I caught my daughter's boyfriend looking at my belt rack 5th degree black belt and trophies from when I was much younger, and he said, "Are all those yours?" "Yep." "So you know how to throw someone?" "Yep." "Could you teach me?" How much of a setup did I need? I took him into the backyard and threw his skinny ass around for about 45 minutes. And every time he hit the ground, he got back up with a huge smile and said that was awesome. "Show me how." So I took him to my class with my daughter and had her practice throws on him. He never complained, never flinched, and never witched. After class, I told my daughter I liked him. So she broke up with him. That's Samazi. Oh, never mind. It was my parents, actually. When my mom first met my dad, he was working in an auto body repair shop, actually damn good at what he does. Well, to surprise my mom's dad, he borrowed my grandfather's 1968 SS Camaro, which had been nearly totaled in a car wreck a few years back, and completely repaired it. When they first met, my dad shook my grandfather's hand, said, "Mr. Haynes, my name is Kevin. Why don't you come outside?" His Camaro was sitting outside looking almost brand new. My mom says that was the only time she has ever seen her dad cry. TL. Doctor, angsty teenage asshole son meets wonderful girl who turns him into a human being, making us fall in love with her. My son was suffering from an acute case of testosterone poisoning after being a typical teenage boy. He hated us. He hated his siblings. He hated school. He hated life. He didn't believe in the concept of having a future. About the only thing keeping him breathing was his guitar. Then along came Jessie, not her real name. Absolutely gorgeous girl, talented. They met because he needed someone to sing the songs he was writing. Smart as heck. She got into college a year early and just a joy to have around. To be honest, my wife and I fell in love with her long before our son did. He had to be smacked in the head a bit to even realize he was smitten. When he fell hard. And luckily, it was the same for her. Now, like I said, Jessie is a wonderful girl, so we would have loved her for her own merits regardless. But it's the effect that she's had on our son that made us fall in love with her. At first, after they started dating, my son was still a typical asshole teenager. But Jessie must have seen something in him that we never could. He was still an ass around his family, but the first time she was around to see it, she called him on it. When he did poorly in school, she asked him how he expected to get into college and support her family, implying with her, I suspect. So he started getting better grades. When he got frustrated with all of the social crap that goes down in high school, she got him to realize it was basically bullshit that wasn't worth it. And so on, and so on. Little by little, she turned him into a human being. The culmination of all this came one day when Jessie was over at our house for a family dinner. He stood up and said that he realized he had been a real tool for a long time, and that he was sorry, and that he knew he had to be a better person. Then he thanked Jessie for giving him a reason to be a better person, and for being someone worth being better for. Hugs and tears all around. And then he made good on his promise. Today, he's a son and a friend who I can be proud of. Frankly, if Jessie had never come into the picture, I doubt he'd be alive. They're still together junior year of college, and they got engaged a few weeks ago. At their wedding I plan to say this, the old cliche about not losing a son, but gaining a daughter doesn't apply, because Jessie brought back to us the son we thought we had lost, and we can't gain a daughter, because she has been that, and more to us for close to 7 years. I'm not crying, it's just dusty in here. Someone's chopping a hell of a lot of onions in my room for some reason. Not a parent, but a sister who is fiercely protective of her brothers. My eldest brother was terrified of me. I'm quite aloof, I get it. The defining moment of my coming to love her was when we visited the zoo. On the way in, she saw a little girl getting a butterfly fascia painted on her. She, aged 28, wanted the same thing. My brother said no way, don't be ridiculous, etc. She said nothing more about it, just went about her day. Hour or two later, she went to the bathroom. She took a while. She returned with a butterfly on her face and the biggest smile I have ever seen. Her managing to cause this look of total despair but also love on my brother's face was the moment. Edit. Just in case you're wondering, my brother is not a control freak. It was cutesy flirtatious kind of behavior on both their parts. No need to raise alarm bells. Haha, I love you story. He is a lucky man to have you both. I worked in an ice cream shop with my current sew, and her mom came in one night. Without knowing it was her mom at the time, me being friendly, I struck up a conversation with her while I got her ice cream and food for her. 3 months later I start dating the girl I worked with, and I immediately recognized her mom when I met her for the first time. The first thing her mom said was, "Well, you already have my approval." That's lucky, I mean really lucky. Nothing lucky about it. Dude is a nice guy, people appreciate it. My parents are pretty traditional and really liked the idea of any potential boyfriends asking my dad's permission to date me. However, after 3 years of undergrad, living away from home and inevitable casual BFS, they had kind of come to accept that this was not going to happen. I made this joke after a one night stand made it clear he wanted to date me. We went on a few dates and things were progressing well. However, I was surprised one day to hear that my father and brother were coming to visit the city for a day. Turns out this guy had contacted my brother on Facebook and was taking him and my father out to lunch to ask permission to date me. This one night stand is now my husband. I had sex with your daughter last night and I was wondering, would it be okay if I took her to a movie or something like that? I promised to keep having sex with her, but I'd also like to grab a meal or something in between these sexcapades. There was a moment last night when she was sandwiched between the two Finnish dwarves and the Maori tribesmen where I thought, wow, I could really spend the rest of my life with this woman. My now husband won over my mom forever when, after meeting for the first time at a college cocktail party my parents were visiting for parents weekend, he put his jacket over my shoulders when we all went outside. It was a brisk fall day and I was in a dress. She has always said she liked him from that moment on. 33 years later, she wasn't wrong. I know the exact moment I won my wife's family over. I could see it in her father's eyes. It was high school, before we started dating. The first time I went over to her house, actually, her father and 2 brothers are all pretty tall, and I'm average height. It's a very alpha male household, and they had this thing they like to do to potential boyfriends. So when my wife left the room to go to the bathroom or whatever, all 3 of them stood, lined up shoulder to shoulder, and loomed over me, blank-faced, glaring down, no words, no motion, just staring and looming. I found out later that her last boyfriend almost cried when they did this to him. I've always been really socially awkward, but an odd part of that awkwardness is that I'm never intimidated by people. I don't know why, but they just don't frighten me. I slowly stood up, looking them all in the eye, and then poked her dad right in the tummy. I said, "Boop." He stared for a second, and then a giant grin split his face. It turns out that he's a massive goofball. From that moment on, I was a member of the family. The whole dating and marriage thing was just a formality to them. My word, that mental image made me crack up for the last 5 minutes. Pecan pie. Yes, fixing computers helped. Yes, him being a nice guy helped. But I swear my husband won over my entire family and extended family on his pie alone. Quote from every family meal ever before we got married: "Is your boyfriend coming? Is he bringing that pecan pie? Now that we are married, hey, where's his pecan pie? You know you married a winner there. He makes great pies. He makes great pies, if you know what I mean. Especially his coconut cream pie." You're wrong. It's his banana cream pie that really does it. My so bonded with my dad immediately by their mutual hatred of my older sister's ex-BF/baby daddy. Actually, my younger sister also had a trash can of a BF at the time. When my so showed up with a car, a stable job, and actually treated me with respect, it was like a miracle. I think this is how my boyfriend won my family over too. Just by not being my ex, and having a car. You guys are making me feel very dateable. Thanks. Car? Check. Not piece of shit? Check. Yeah man, sounds like you're better than most. I'll tell you the story of how my husband won over my dad. My dad has a sailboat, which he is kind of crazy about. My husband has a background in naval architecture. We went to visit my dad, and while we were on his boat in the marina, the guy in the slip next to us runs over. My boat is taking on water. He says, "Come help me bail it out." "Don't worry," responds my father. My son-in-law is a naval architect. Something to note at this point in the story, my now husband and I had only been dating for like 8 months. We weren't even close to getting engaged, let alone married. But now all of a sudden boyfriend is his son-in-law. So now husband just goes with it. Sure. I, the son-in-law, will see if I can help. He gets on the guy's boat and sees that there's water seeping through the floorboards. He thinks this is weird, given that the pump is going and the boat isn't listing or anything. So he gets down, sticks his finger in the water, and licks it. It's fresh water. Now husband says, "Your bilge is leaking. Did you remember to turn off the hose after you finished filling up your freshwater tank?" And that, my friends, is how my husband became a legend in Dad's Marina, and my dad's favorite person of all time. Upon meeting my teenage daughter, she was always embarrassed by me at that time, so she says, "Dad, are you drunk?" It's the middle of the day, and of course I wasn't drunk. I hesitate for a moment, and then just answer, "Yes." Her new looks at me completely straight-faced and says, "Same." Sense of humor wins me over. I won over my parents by doing what any respectable person would do. I did what I said I would do. I was always on time. I treated his daughter with respect. Simple, but he's fairly consistent results. My did the same with my parents, and they adore him. My mother has joked I hope that in the event of a divorce she'd take my You think she's joking? I have my doubts. Apparently, making my smile, it seems that it was pretty rare enough for her mother to actually be surprised to see her smile. I like this. Doesn't have to be a big thing or gesture, just a smile. My daughter's gonna call him John gained my full approval just recently. A little backstory, me and my wife had an accidental baby just last year. We are in our late 40s. And my family was rather shocked considering we already have a 28-year-old son and a 22-year-old daughter at that point. This may sound strange so far, but it will make sense later. My daughter met John in college and started dating after being friends for a year or so. Didn't take long after that before we met him, and we thought he was a decent kid, if not a little bit socially awkward and sort of uncomfortable around us. All of her previous boyfriends were more outgoing, and this kid was quiet. Didn't really think he was going to last. My daughter eventually got an internship out of country and now they're LTR, and I was skeptical whether or not this kid was going to stick around. Strangely enough, he visits the house and hangs out with my older son, and we all talk and have dinner together pretty frequently, which is interesting considering my daughter never expected him to do this. I found out that the main reason that he visited us so often was because my dog was worried that her new little brother would forget who she is while she was gone. So when John would play with our son, when he thought nobody was around, he would show him pictures of my daughter making goofy faces to try to make sure that he will remember his big sister. When I brought it up with my daughter, she didn't know that John was doing this. That was probably the moment where I started wholeheartedly approving of him. Won my dad over by shaving him. We had a not too close relationship, always quite distant. After he suffered a stroke and was hospitalized, he couldn't move too well, and as he did not want to be washed and shaved by the nurses and my was not able to do this, it was my duty. Even though we couldn't really talk, I knew I got his approval. He said take good care of her. He died a few days later. Edit. Yes, I'm still together with a girl. Real family with 2 kids now. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to my channel for more curated daily Reddit stories.